Hello, and my name is Pete Rushmer, and I'm your host today of a Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success, or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we are here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is.
We're doing a mashup today. It's myself and Jamie Bielawski. We are one Fleet Geek short. We are short Mike, but we're going to be doing a mashup for both the Fleet Geeks podcast and for my Half Dozen Things. Welcome, Jamie. Jamie is a senior health and safety consultant for Flagship Partners, been with us 6 months. Absolutely brilliant at what he does. I'll give you a bit of an opportunity to introduce yourself, Jamie. Tell people about your background in the fleet and transport sector, mate.
Well, good morning, Pete. And I've been in the industry since I left school, but I'll go way back before that. I actually started as a bit of a trainee mechanic. I had a Saturday job in a garage Saturday mornings when I was probably 15, so that sort of got me into the
You've always loved it, mate.
My friends were out doing paper rounds all week, but I actually went and done something I enjoyed Saturday mornings, only for 4 hours. And from there, I obviously wanted to stay in mechanicking and fit in that sort of environment. So I looked to get myself an apprenticeship.
Nice.
Got myself an apprenticeship in a HGV heavy vehicle workshop for a company, Hanson Building Products, what it was called at the time. Absolutely loved that. Qualified, got to technician level in there. So that sort of got my interest in the haulage sector, really. Dealing with drivers as they come in, the whole atmosphere around it. Good environment, working in a workshop as well, Pete. Obviously, I know you've had a bit of a
100%. Yeah, love working in a workshop, mate. A lot of banter.
Yeah, a lot of banter. It was, and to be fair, at the time, I thought, this is a job for life in here, because it was a really good environment to work in. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end. That sort of area of my life closed when we got made redundant.
Yeah.
The operator I was working with closed their workshop. A big mistake in my opinion. I always think sometimes in-house facilities can really help you.
Definitely.
So I then did 2 hours working for a private, 2 years working for a private company. Once again, looking after the vehicles we'd already looked after, so they came in. And I got a bit cab happy, taking trucks for MOT, road tests. I was doing a bit of weekend work, delivering for various companies, Tesco, TNT at the time.
Of course, and you were definitely recording all of your other work on your taco card, weren't you, mate?
I was, yeah. To be fair, that's on analog taco back then when I was doing that, actually.
Oh, fucking hell, mate, showing your age
now.
now.
I am, yeah. It's great. I find it strange when we do CPC courses. I talk, and there's people older than me never used it, analog taco. I'm thinking perhaps it's me that's old, actually. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant,
yeah,
man.
shocking. But I used to do that, like I say, real cab happy. An opportunity came up to work back with Hanson as a driver. They got their fleet back. So I went driving for just under 7 years, Class 1, delivering building materials around the UK.
Nice.
Loved it. I didn't realise how much I liked my own company, actually, when I went lorry driving. It was
nice,
quite enjoyable, but I just wanted something more. So while I was doing that, I put myself through a home study, CPC, Transport Manager CPC.
Yep.
So every time I stopped, got the books out, bit of revision, and passed that. And my actual aim goal was to have my own truck. But at the time, my daughter was young, and when I priced it all up, it scared me a little bit, I'll be honest.
Yeah, got you. Were you going to go for Bielawski haulage and then realise no one would be able to spell it?
Yeah, that would be that would have been it. To be fair, I never thought of a name. Yeah, never thought of a name. But yeah, it was the pricing, and that's why I sympathise with hauliers now. The costs are astronomical at times, aren't they?
You wouldn't want to start out now, would you? You just wouldn't want to start out.
Well, even worse now with the fuel prices the way they are. But yeah, everything's going up, isn't it? But the people are reluctant to pay the rates.
Yeah, compliance has never been tougher. And to be fair, and I know you're you're nearly up to date now, aren't you? You did transport manager, didn't you? And then what else were you up to, mate? Sorry.
So I went as a transport manager after that. Got the opportunity to do that, which I absolutely loved, and then a transport compliance manager for the group. who I was with.
How many vehicles was that for the group?
We had 156 vehicles at the time.
Nice.
And probably 161 trailers, I think it was.
Nice. Plus drivers, plus transport
180
managers.
drivers, plus 5 transport managers. It was it was a big gig. It was quite a tough gig. As with every job in the transport sector, long hours and tough decisions along the way. And then I joined Flagship Partners 6 months ago now as
early September, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, which has flew by, I'll be perfectly honest, which I really enjoy this. This is a totally different environment to what I'm used to, and it's good to see the good and bad practices as you go along, and people sometimes, need that bit of help. Similarly, sometimes you look at people's processes, don't you? Think, well, actually, I can share that with the next customer you go to, because that's a fantastic idea.
Definitely. I think that's one of the most rewarding things about what we do is we see people have found lots of different ways to do stuff, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And some of them are awful, and some of them are great, and some of them could do with some work, and some have the makings of a really good process. And you think, with a bit of work, that could be fantastic.
Yeah, most definitely.
So awesome, mate. So you're well positioned then. I've asked you to come onto the podcast today, particularly for those half dozen things listeners, so that firstly you could share your experience, and secondly we could talk about the 6 key areas for top quality compliance performance in the fleet sector. So you've prepared 6 areas for me, and the first one's understanding your subject, then understanding your people. Don't be afraid to ask the difficult questions. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Allow time solely for compliance and don't get distracted. Keeping up to date with changes, and then finally constantly reviewing and updating your processes. Absolutely fantastic, mate. So I'm looking forward to delving into these really. Was it difficult finding 6 things, or did you sort of find it quite easy?
I've done it in about 3 minutes actually, because I just thought, what do I do, and what do I expect?
Approach it? Yeah. So we're getting a bit of an insight into how Jamie thinks in this podcast. So that's really good that so naturally came up with those. So let's kick it off first then. Understanding your subject. Tell me a bit more about that.
And I think this is the most important one out of all of it really. Okay. To give an example, I was with an operator not long after I started here, and he had a driver 2 weeks on the trot. He'd had insufficient daily rest, and the operator actually said to me, look, he's had 11 hours off. I said, yeah, but in a 24-hour period, he's worked more than 13 hours the day before, even though he's had 11 hours off. It still counts as insufficient daily rest. So things like that, understand your subject. You can't be compliant if you don't understand your subject, and you can't put things right if you don't understand your subject. It's worth going away and if you're doing, for that example, driver's hours, actually read into it before you judge it, and just understand it. No one knows everything, so if you need to ask for advice as well, to someone help you understand your subject, I think it's really important that you can't make decisions based on guesswork, and you need to understand that decision.
I think that's one of the beauties of what the podcast does as well for people. Well, I hope that the podcast does, because it's something that they do for me, and that is that we might touch on something not particularly in a great deal of depth. For example, we've just done a recording on third-party trailers. But what it does do is it alerts you to something that you may not have the knowledge that you need on, and then you've got an opportunity to go and do it. And if you expose yourself, not physically, but emotionally or intelligently, to the different formats like commercial motor or even the Facebook groups, you start to pick up some of the challenges other people have and go, I don't really understand that. And then that's a trigger for you to go and dig deeper. Definitely. That's certainly how I've built my knowledge over time.
Definitely, that is how you build it. You don't know everything straight away. Every day you learn something, don't you? And I think it's important to keep learning and keep trying to understand the best way to do things.
And sometimes you've got to learn from other people's mistakes as well, haven't you? Or learn from what's happening to them, because in a certain operations you'll only ever experience certain challenges, and some operations have different challenges, so it's good to get that broad understanding, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
I suppose that's the beauty of our job as well, isn't it? Because we get to see so many different fleets and different operations.
Yeah, definitely. And they share their experiences with us, don't they? And that, like you said, it really helps.
Okay, brill. So the first one is around really understanding the subject.
Yeah.
And I would say for people listening, if you're unsure of your subject, or if you want to know more, then do have a listen to some of our other podcasts and that kind of thing, because whilst you might not get all the answers, because we can't give all the answers because we don't know everything either, but what we do is we do talk about the challenges that people face, and that should then alert you to the different things that you might need to be thinking about.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, cool. So the second area was around understanding your people. Tell me a bit more about that, mate.
So understand your people. The people in your organisation. There's different ways of looking at this. It may be a driver. You have drivers. I always think there's 3 different types of drivers when it comes to tacos. Ones that hardly ever get any infringements. Ones that the second group, they probably get the odd infringement every now and then. And then there's your third group of drivers. They keep getting it wrong. So understand your people. When you go into an operation, you soon work that out. Hang on a minute, he keeps flagging up. So understand your people, deal with those people first. They're your high risk drivers.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor a Half Dozen Things podcast. At Flagship Partners, we take road safety really seriously, and we're your road safety partnership. We help transport companies with compliance and training across their businesses, including first aid, driver CPC, and other transport management services. So if you're FORS accredited or you want to improve your operator compliance risk score, give Flagship Partners a call today.
Not only drivers though, it could be people in your transport office. It's worth speaking to people in your transport office, making sure they understand what's required, understand what's expected of them. People don't know they're doing something wrong if they're not told at times. People can't guess that they're not doing something right. If you see them doing something, wrong, obviously speak to them, but you need to speak to them to work that out. And that goes, up and down. If your transport manager above you or something, speak to them, make sure they know what they're doing. So understand your people as a whole, the whole group of people. Just make sure everyone knows what's expected of them, basically. Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually. A really good point around looking and seeing who is the highest risk people and tackling them first, particularly around drivers, because not all drivers are equal and have got equal experience. They've all got different levels of experience. So certainly hunting down the ones that have got the biggest challenges are definitely you can have the most impact most quickly, and they're your highest risk as well. Yeah. So why spend time teaching the guys who never get infringements to suck eggs, right? They kind of know what they're doing. So long as they are consciously competent, what I would say is sometimes drivers don't get infringements because they don't bloody work hard enough to, or long enough to.
And I'd also caveat that by if someomeone's getting no infringements, you need to look at that as well, because there's probably
that could be
there could be another issue with that side as well. But it's understanding your people. Someone did actually say to me, 20% of the people take 80% of your time in business.
That's right.
I found
love the old 80-20 rule. Love the old 80-20 rule. Yeah. 80% of our customers only take up 20% of our time, and 20% of our customers take up 80% of our time. That's it's always the way, and I'm sure it's much the same for other people too. Okay, cool. And then so from a office point of view as well, it's interesting what you say. People don't know they're doing something wrong until you tell them, and all too often I hear people shrugging their shoulders and going, well, that's the way it's always been, or and people are sometimes unconsciously incompetent. They don't really realise what they're doing is wrong, and they've never been told any different because management standards aren't good enough.
No, very true. Yeah, and that could lead us on to the next one. Don't be afraid to ask the difficult questions.
Yeah, love that. Go with that, mate. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's sort of touched on what you said there. It's not always the management are incompetent, but perhaps they don't like conflict. They don't want to upset the apple cart. Unfortunately, if you want to be compliant, sometimes you have to. You have to ask the difficult questions and have the difficult discussions with people. They may not like it, but it's for the good of the business, and I think it's how you go about it as well.
Definitely. Sometimes compliance is in direct conflict with making money, isn't it?
Massively, yeah.
Sometimes profitability and compliance and anyone that says otherwise, I would challenge you, because ultimately compliance does cost money. Some people see it as an investment, and that's the right way to do it, because legally it's something you've got to do, so we have to accept that. And many people will go, oh, well, it's an investment and it makes us perform better, and then that makes us more profitable. And that's absolutely right. But if you're a start-up business and you can get away without servicing your vehicles, directly straight away you're going to be making more profit, although it's the thin end of the wedge and it's not going to last forever.
It's a
short-term sort of viewpoint, but longer term I think sometimes there can be a real conflict there between, we can deal with that later, let's go and make money now.
And it, like you said earlier, it's short-sighted. It really is, and that's the beauty of us doing our job. We don't have, a lot of the customers we go to, we don't have that operational pressure. Yeah. So we can be quite unbiased in our view. That is the way it's supposed to be done. We have no interest in that side of it at times. So,
and it's nice because we get paid to ask the difficult questions.
We do,
don't we?
yeah. I think don't be afraid of conflict as well, as long as it's done right.
Definitely.
Not personal, and it's for business reasons, and it's done right. There's no reason there can be conflict.
I think that's really, really true and valid there. I think there's so much opportunity to come from conflict when it's done the right way. In fact, I've just downloaded a book. I'm looking forward to listening to it. It's called Radical Candor, and candor's this American word around being honest and truthful and looking for the truth. And I'm looking forward to reading it because I think it will help. Actually, it's about asking the difficult questions. It's about being open and honest about having those bad breath conversations. I think sometimes.
They are needed in business, aren't they? Not just our sector, but in all sectors. And people naturally don't like conflict, unfortunately, do they? They don't want that angst between employees, but unfortunately, sometimes things need saying and things need putting right.
Definitely. Okay, so moving on to the fourth area, which is interesting. It's around that discipline of allowing time solely for compliance and not getting distracted, which is very, very easy to do, to sort of let go of that discipline, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. If you're in a busy transport office and the world around you is falling apart, customers, deliveries are failing for whatever reason, it may be traffic, it may be that I don't know, there's hold-ups at the distribution centre, etc. You can get involved with that on a day-to-day basis, and that becomes your sole aim to try and stop these problems happening, because they're the here and now, and that can allow compliance to slip, because compliance isn't always a here and now issue, is it? It's something you can deal with at your own time. So always allow time. I used to Monday mornings would be, for me, literally going through everyone's tacos, and I'd always allow that Monday morning, 2 hours in the mornings, to go through everyone's tacos, making sure these, and just plan them times in your diary even, just to make sure, say, right, for these 2 hours I'm concentrating on tacos, the next 2 hours we're going to look at maintenance, not perhaps all on the same day, because you're going to have these day-to-day issues that are coming up, but just make time for it. It's too easy to put that off, because you've got, like I said, you've got your problems for the here and now, which don't stop in transport, do they? I always say with transport, you start with a plan A. You never finish at plan B during the day, do you? You manage your losses to probably plan D.
Definitely. And I think compliance is, and I'll always say this, compliance is the thin end of the wedge. It's like a snowball. The more you ignore it, the bigger it gets, and the bigger the challenges are. So it's much better to do a little and often. I think it's that discipline of a little and often. It's a little bit like exercise, isn't it? But once you've done it, you feel better about it, and you feel comfortable that you've done what you needed to do and had a look at. Because
it does make your operation more efficient in the long term. Definitely, these problems are sorted. You're not having to get drivers in so much if you're on top of it. So it actually saves you time in the long run.
That's a really good way of looking at it. It's like an investment, isn't it?
It really is.
It is like an investment, and it snowballs the other way, in that you do a little and often, and the snowball's going in the right direction rather than in the wrong direction and getting on top of you. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, mate. So the fifth area is around keeping up to date with changes. Why is that relevant? What's so important about that?
Well, we touched on it earlier, really. Things change, don't they? We're learning every day for a start. Things do change as well. Subscribe to things like the Moving On blog, etc. The Traffic Commissioner posts. Just keep up with these changes in legislation. The mobile phone law changed recently.
Yes, this is about CPD, ongoing professional development.
Yeah, it's really, really important that you don't stick on your laurels. Just keep moving with the times. So it's quite a dynamic industry what we're in, isn't it? Although it can feel old-fashioned at times, it is quite a dynamic industry. Things are changing all the time.
It's forever evolving, mate. Absolutely. And like you say, the mobile phone laws changed on Friday. I think it caught a lot of people by surprise, because they probably didn't fully understand what the mobile phone laws were. But that changed. Highway code updated recently, didn't it? There's new O licence for international over 2.5 tonne vehicles. I still haven't got my head around that, to be honest, so I need to get my head around that and what have you too.
I'm sure we'll start getting phone calls on that. So.
I'm surprised. To be fair, I'm surprised we haven't really, but I guess we're so heavily impacted on the HGV world at the moment, then there hasn't been much room for that to come through. But I see that being a big thing. So CPD is vitally important, isn't it? And it's something the Traffic Commissioner's looking for now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And also, share it with your teams as well. If you get these bits of information, share them with your team. They've probably missed it. So and that can create good discussion, can't it, and how your business can move forward with the new changes, like with the mobile phone, change of policy, for example.
Yeah.
And getting that distributed, especially to the drivers.
Yeah.
You don't want to drive it. Well, I didn't know about it. You don't want that instance.
Definitely.
So yeah, always keep up to date with changes. However, there's so many ways of doing it as well, like Commercial Motor, without selling them too much, but blogs, Fleet Geeks podcast, etc. We'll try and talk about.
Get on the podcast
as they come.
Yeah, perfect. And the Facebook groups are useful too as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously on social media. Okay, brilliant. That rounds us off to the final and half dozen thing then about constantly reviewing and updating your processes. So tell me a bit more about that, mate.
So yeah, always important. You do it for all other documents, don't you? You do it for a risk assessment. You'd always review and assess a risk assessment, whether it be after an incident or time-based. You should do that with all your policies and documents, in my opinion. What was right 3 years ago probably isn't right now. Things, like we said, changed. There may be something in a policy that has changed, and you all know about it, but you haven't changed the policy because you didn't think to look back at that. So always review and assess your policies. We're like I said earlier, we're in that beautiful position where we can go and see other people's best practice, so that can help us come back and review our own policies, what we do. But yeah, it's always good. It's best practice, isn't it? Always moving forward, always trying to improve what you're doing, and the business will benefit from that. So always good to assess and review.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's the plan, do, check, act.
Yeah, plan, do, check, act.
Yeah, it's all part of that process, isn't it? And making sure that you're on top of everything, and that every time there's a shortfall, I think it's sort of having that scrutiny, isn't it? That every time there's like something that just goes slightly wrong or what have you, is there a hole in the process we're following? Is there a hole in the policy? Do we need to just sort of patch that up a little bit? Do we need to review that and make sure it's right? Because every time someone doesn't understand something or someone gets something wrong, there's potentially an issue there. It might be your induction process isn't quite right. It might be some part of the training that isn't properly followed. So it's very important to make sure you review those things, mate, isn't it?
And also, I'll just add on to that, another thing I like to do is involve, if it's a process for a driver, involve a driver in it as well. You get them back an hour early, 2 hours early, ask them to go through it. What do you think with that? These guys are the people on the ground with the experience and the know-all, really, of that.
Yeah,
and,
perfect.
Get them to help you out.
Perfect, mate. Brilliant. Thank you very much for sharing your insights today, Jay.
Thank you for having me.
Really, really appreciate it. I hope the listeners have found that useful. If you have, please do subscribe to the podcast. Please do like it. Please do share it. We've got a Facebook group called the Fleet Geeks, so please do join the Facebook group. Connect with Jamie on LinkedIn, Jamie Bielawski, or myself, Pete Rushmer, on LinkedIn, and keep an eye out. We've got some free networking coming up. Last Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m, we're going to be doing free networking, and then additionally on top of that, we're going to be offering a paid membership for what we call our peer-to-peer networking. So that's going to be a fantastic opportunity and certainly help you fulfill some of these half dozen things that Jamie's come up with here around making sure that you keep up to date, making sure you ask the difficult questions, making sure that you are a subject matter expert as well, because you're going to be with peers, other transport managers in different sectors who are going to be challenging you and keeping you accountable too. So a really fantastic development opportunity. Jamie, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much, Pete.
And thank you everyone for listening. You guys take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel and my business Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.